Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Q&A. This episode's actually more about Ask Me Anything. That has anything to do with music production in general, and it doesn't necessarily have to be about Cakewalk. However, if you are a Cakewalk user, it's a great way for me to sort of showcase on the screen some things, maybe just real quickly, that I can show you instead of having to, type a million emails or go back and forth on Messenger or anything like that. And real quickly, I'm just going to go ahead and dive right into today's episode because there's a couple of different questions that I got, and I'm going to cover those right off the bat. But before we get into that, if this is your first time here, this channel exists to simplify the complexities of the home studio and to help you make professional sounding music in a less than professional space. The motto around here is that we can dream alone, we can even create alone, but together we can achieve so much more. All right, so by way of the chat, if you're here today and you are present, let me know where you're tuning in from, what state, what city, or what area you might be from, what nation, and or even what room of the house. That'd be kind of interesting. If you weren't also not aware of the fact, we do still have a 10,000 subscriber giveaway that's going on right now. The link is still open and there's only a few days left to enter that. You definitely want to get in on this, however, because there's over $2,000 worth of plugins and courses that we'll be giving away during this giveaway. Now, once we have reached these 10,000, which we've actually surpassed now. I did not expect it to happen that quickly, but it did. So thank you everyone who has subscribed thus far. If you are not a subscriber, now would be a good time to do so. The only major stipulation, other than signing up at the link, even if all you do is the bare minimum, is just sign up at this link. The bare minimum is you at least have to be a subscriber to the channel in order to be entered into the giveaway. So thank you all so much for subscribing and for sharing these videos and for just coming back and being awesome as usual. And if you'd like to get your hands on some of these plugins, there's no strings attached. It's literally just become a subscriber. And if you want to get more entries into that, when you follow that link that's in the description of the video, then you'll know exactly what you need to do in order to do that. All right. By way of announcements as well, I want to give a huge shout out to these awesome individuals right here. These are the folks who helped to sponsor all of our giveaways. Now, initially they started out as just basically sending some love my way, a little repayment for all of the labor of love that I do around here as far as tutorials and live streams, these live Q&A sessions like we're having right now. These individuals have jumped on board a long time ago and said, hey, I see value in this. I'm going to go ahead and support you monetarily in a monthly donation of $1.99 or more. So if you are not a YouTube membership member, there's a join button you'll see there just under or right next to the subscribe button on this channel. You can join and you'll also get your hands on the current Cakewalk theme that I'm using, as well as some multi-tracks. Recently we did the Michael Jackson multi-track mix. You'll be able to get access to those there. Also, if you go over to my Patreon page, there's a ton of stuff on the Patreon page that you can get access to. I know it's a few more steps to sign up, but if you sign up through there, you can also get access to some of my courses, as well as EQ cheat sheets, all kinds of crazy cool stuff. But thank you, each and every one of you chart toppers who have seen value in this and who have given back in some way, shape, or form monetarily. Thank you all so much. You're helping to sponsor giveaways just like the one we're getting ready to have now. All right. With that being said, let's go ahead and hop on over to the desktop, and we're going to go ahead and check out, maybe right off the bat, just start answering some of these questions that individuals have had concerning the current state of Cakewalk. So I have up before me right now Cakewalk, and this is thanks, Mob the Gamer. Appreciate you popping in, buddy. It's also good to see Fred and Social Sound in the chat today. Fred is from Mexico. Nice. And Amadeo from Italy. Very cool. Very cool. All right. So what we're going to see here is basically, let me make sure I got my There we go. Just trying to figure out how to get that back up there. Oh, well, there it is. Okay, so basically what we have is the most recent song that we just came out with, Viral. And I had a lot of individuals asking me, did you do all of this in Cakewalk? Yes. In fact, most of the people that collaborated with me on this song, this was a collaborative effort of individuals who signed up for the Rocket Fuel mixing bundle, as it was called. Now it's just called the Rocket Fuel bundle, simply because it initially started out as being a fast track to learning mixing skills, and now it's turned into a fast track for production, mixing, mastering, the whole 9 yards. So I thought, well, we'll remove mixing from there and just make it the Rocket Fuel bundle. If you're unaware as to what that is, there's a link in the description below, and we'll go through a brief sort of sponsorship style type commercial at the end of this stream, so you can learn more about that as well. But essentially, individuals who were a part of that group, and also excluding 𝗏, but he just kind of jumped on at the last minute because he's awesome like that. We all collaborated on this song together. And a lot of the individuals, like I said, were using Cakewalk. Some were using Studio One. I believe one of them was using Logic. But the point is, regardless of what DAW that you're using, that you can still collaborate and get a really good result. So if you were not aware of the song that was released, this is the song called Viral.
Of this present hour is ever looming. The pressure to perform is...
Okay, so this was all completely done in the box. This was also all done within the Cakewalk sphere, as some would say. So some of the questions that I got was, let me kind of pull these up here. Which, by the way, if you have not liked this stream as of yet, go ahead and give it a nice little thumbs up there. That helps YouTube to know that whatever we're doing over here actually makes a difference. So one of the questions I got was about the vocals. They wanted to know what was going on with the vocal harmonies. Is that all you? How did you do that? So, in short, the quick answer is no, it's not all me. But for the first part of that, yes, it is all me. And I'll show you what I mean here in just a second. So here's one of the harmonies.
The sickness that this world is going through has opened up my eyes to see the truth.
Okay, that's playing just underneath, if I was to solo that out completely.
The sickness that this world is going through.
So that's playing just underneath the lead vocal line. And then underneath that is another layer, this one here.
The sickness that this world is going through.
Okay, that's panned to left. And then here's a third take.
The sickness that this world is going through.
And that's panned right. So when you put all of these together, this is, and those were all me singing.
The sickness that this world is going through.
Okay, so that is how the initial chorus was done. But then I think the major question was, what about these choir type vocals whenever we get to the bridge? So I want to show you this here. This is super cool. Okay.
Talk is cheap, so give me change. That's all I'll need to make this call the burden of.
Now that's the lower register of that, so it's a little bit volume wise, it's even turned down more. And then here's a secondary.
Talk is cheap, so give me change. It's all I'll need to make this call. The burden of what you think will be enough to make me fall before the idol that this world has raised in ignorance. I'll boldly stand.
Okay, so then you take that and you couple it with the main lead vocal, and this is the effect that you get from that.
Talk is cheap, so give me change. That's all I'll need to make this call. The burden of what you say won't be enough to make me fall before the idol that this world has raised in.
So to answer the questions that were kind of coming in about this, was that an actual choir? No. And the other question was, so the actual choir was literally just me and some friends. But then when you get to that portion of it was all me. However, now we have some elements here that are not me. Now this is where Mob the Gamer came in. And you'll see we have a left, right, center harmonies here that's being added in.
Talk is cheap, so give me change. That's all I'll need to make this call. The burden of what you say won't be enough to make.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and solo out just the choir so you guys can hear that. Now we'll throw in the left and the right harmonies so you can hear all of that. What is up, kamikaze shots? Okay, we'll throw in this other. As you can see, this comes in just a little bit later. And here it comes now. Very cool. So now we couple that with the choir vocals that I recorded here. Here are the lows. Hey, DJ Big Red 81, it's good to see you, buddy. Becoming quite the staple here on the streams. I like having you around. All right, so now we're getting, look at this. This is crazy. We've got choir vocals mids, choir vocals lows, and choir vocals high. Okay, and all of these were me. In fact, I did them as sort of a tutorial on how to get a choir sound with just one microphone and one person. So if I remove Mob from the equation, you'll hear just me here. Pretty cool. Bring in Mob. Nice. Now, when you bring in all of the vocals together on top of that. So tracks 1 through good night 20 are nothing but vocals. Check this out.
Talk is cheap, so give me change. That's all I'll need to make this call. The burden of what you say won't be enough to make me fall before the idol that this world is raised in ignorance. I'll boldly.
Nice. Now let's take all of that, put it in context with the music, so that now you can kind of get a good sort of bass reference to see exactly where that all stemmed from. So here's with the music, loud noise in 3, 2, and 1.
Talk is cheap, give me change. That's all I'll need to make this call. The burden of what you say won't be enough to make me fall before the idol that this world is raised in ignorance. I'll boldly stand for what is right and keep on walking in the light. When I have drawn my final breath, my conscience clean before my death, I'll raise my voice
Nice. Okay, so there's the completed. Yes, it was a lot of work because as one of the questions that just came in, which is a good question, DJ Big Red 81 says, did you do all of these as individual takes, or did you clone the track and pitch shift the created harmonies? Now, these were all individual takes. Now, there's a reason for that. So I'm not completely opposed to taking a track and duplicating it, treating it a little bit differently, and blending it back in with the original. However, when you start doing that and you start painting things left and right, that's where you can run into some phase issues, some phase cancellation, some warbly sounds that don't necessarily need to be there. And so these were all individual takes. Yes, it was a lot more work, but in the end, it produced a lot better sound. And one of the things that I have found in some of the research that I've been doing here lately on the channel with, you know, some of the Michael Jackson multi-tracks and some of the various songs we've been breaking down, is that when you spend just a little bit more work on the front end to get the sound that you're looking for in your head, it's going to translate so much better whenever you get to the mixing stage, the mastering stage, the production stage, whatever that stage might be. It's going to translate so much better. And so the best way that you can actually get your everything to fit like it should be and to sound like you're wanting it to be is to just do a little bit of extra work and record another take. Now, when you start, you know, taking tracks and copying them and then painting them, for one of the biggest misconceptions is, you know, like you take a guitar track, for instance, and let me see if I can just showcase this here real quick. So let's just take this guitar track right here, and I'm going to duplicate it with the events. Okay, then we're going to solo that. Okay, so now if I was to pan this left and right, watch what happens. Doesn't really sound that much wider, right? Now, what happens if I invert the phase on this channel? Sounds a little bit wider, but something's still not quite right here. And what you're hearing there, that area that's not quite right there, is the fact that there is some phase issues that's going on. Let me, for even a better example, let me show you something here. So I'm going to come in here, and this is a completely unprocessed track. And I'm going to, let's see. Let's use this 808 hit. Okay. So I have an 808 hit here. What is up, x.e.l.o? So now I have an 808 hit here. I'm going to go ahead and duplicate that. And I'm going to select with the events. That means it's going to be the actual duplicated track here. And watch what happens when I phase invert this. Oops. Still have the guitar soloed up here. Okay. Watch what happens when I phase invert it. I'm going to go ahead and loop it just to show you. What's going on? You hear nothing, right? Flip the phase again. Okay. Gonna invert the phase again. Look at the faders. The faders are telling me there's audio going through here. However, you're not hearing anything. The reason for this is because they are perfectly in phase, because it's an exact duplicate. And because they are perfectly in phase, whenever I invert the phase on one of these channels, it's flipping the peaks and valleys to where they are now perfectly combating against one another, which means they are canceling out one another. This is what phase cancellation is. So when you have a duplicated track that you've not, you've been kind of lazy on, let's just admit it, you've been kind of lazy on it, and you have not, re-recorded a secondary take and panned it left and right, you've just simply duplicated it, you're going to run into issues like this where it may not be throughout the whole thing that this happens, but maybe throughout some of these areas where you're going to have a complete null where everything's just going to drop out for a second. You're going to go, what? It sounds like clips. It sounds like pops. It sounds like just null points in that audio. And literally what you're hearing is points where there's phase that's canceling one another. So that's a beautiful illustration there of why you don't duplicate tracks and pan them left and right if it's the exact same take. Okay, now if it's a different take, by all means you can pan those left and right because it's a completely different take. Now let me show you another. This is kind of a way around this, but it's not ideal. Okay. So if I zoom in here, and yet again, we're looking at the phase of these particular tracks, and I use my number keypad to nudge this. So this is where they're combating one another. So you're not going to hear nothing. Okay, now I'm going to select this, use my number keypad to just time shift it. That was way too much. Let me bring this back here. I'm going to time shift it just a bit. Okay, so now even though they are phase inverted and they were canceling one another out a minute ago, now they're not because the timing is different. So now if I pan them left and right, I'm going to get a fake stereo sense here. Okay, so now you're hearing sort of this fake stereo that's going on. But if I was to move this back, all you're hearing right now is just the mono signal because it's the exact same thing. And if you pan it left and right and it's the exact same thing, it's technically all still going right up the middle. So that is why also I'm a big proponent of telling individuals not to overdo, which I seen there was a question that popped up in the chat here a minute ago, not to overdo your doublers. So there are certain doublers that work differently than others, but for the most part, doublers all do the same thing. What they do is they take a sample of whatever it is that you're wanting to double, and then they create a copy of that, and then they time shift them, or phase shift, however you want to call it. Phase and time, it's kind of the same thing. And then all they do is they move them just a little bit, enough to create that fake stereo width, and there's where you get your doubler or your widener. And a lot of people throw those widener plugins on their master bus and wonder, where did all my bass frequencies go? Why can't I hear my kick drum all of a sudden? Why does it sound wider on my headphones, but not wider in the car? And the reason for that is because now you have so many different phase issues that things are combating one another, and it's essentially created an entire copy of that master track and is now phase shifting that entire track, time shifting it, whatever you want to call it, and it's causing frequency cancellation throughout that entire track, and especially things that are up the middle. Because they're up the middle, those things that are being time shifted are being affected the most, like your bass, your kick, and your vocals. So that's why every time, and it's easy to hear. In fact, a lot of times we have a monthly song contest here on the channel every single month. And there for the longest time, every single submission that was coming through, immediately I would go, you're using a widener, stereo widener on your master bus. That's why you can't hear your bass. And it was like almost every single month I was telling people this. Now it's kind of like dwindled away, and people are starting to learn ways to get stereo width without using a widener. A widener can be good on single tracks, just tastefully used. But to be used on a whole mix, absolutely not. It will destroy a mix unless the widener is not set up algorithmically like that. There's only one widener that I have found, honestly, that can really widen a track and not create too much of a phase issue, and that's the one mastering processor from IK Multimedia, which, by the way, is in the giveaway. So, what's up, 𝗶𝘆𝗂𝗧? So with that being said, iZotope's vocal doubler could be detrimental here. Yes. Vocal doublers are not a bad thing for choruses. They're not a bad thing for, certain, like I said, certain aspects. If you want to like create some kind of a sound effect sort of type thing, they can be good for that. They're really good for, vocal choruses, and especially like background vocals, where it doesn't really matter so much about your phase correlation and your issues. I mean, yes, every all phase matters, but in that instance where you're wanting to go for an effect, it can be good. But yet again, just like with anything, you don't want to overdo it. So in fact, if I could just break this down, if I could tell individuals, like if you were to ask me, what's up, Jürgen? What's up, Martin? What's up, 𝗏𝗧? Like if you were to ask me, okay, like what is your top, like number one tip or trick that you could give me that would dramatically improve my mixes right out of the gate? And my number one thing would be to do everything in moderation. Like when I first started mixing, and I'm sure many of you are doing this as well, you want to hear that effect or to hear that EQ adjustment that you're making. And at first it's hard to, because, your ears aren't really properly trained when you first start doing this to know what to listen for. And so the first thing you do is you grab an EQ and you're boosting it like crazy and you're cutting things like crazy, because immediately you hear that difference. One of the big tips that I give individuals who are part of my VIP membership, or like the Rocket Fuel Bundle, Patreon members, YouTube members, some of the tips that I give for them is subjective to every piece of music, of course, because I mean, there's times when I'll boost an EQ like crazy, because it's just not giving me what I want out of it. However, for the most part, boost until you hear the difference and then back it off by like 3 dBs. Cut until you hear the difference and then back it off like by 3 dBs. And just little things like that, over time, you'll start to hear those differences between, and it's crazy to even think this, but honestly, like after years of doing this, I can hear a 3 dB difference. Whereas before, when I first started, I could not. I've almost got it to the point where I can hear a 1 dB difference. And then there's sometimes where I think I'm just tricking myself into thinking I'm hearing that, but, but yes, everything in moderation. So 𝗏𝗏𝗄𝗧 shots, in reference to the vocal doubler, he says he was thinking of just fattening the vocal chorus with less tracks. That's a great way to do that. Yeah, the vocal doubler can do that. Yet again, just don't overdo it. And if you want to create another cool doubling effect without having to tax your CPU too much, you can even use something like a chorus or a flanger type effect. It essentially does the same thing too. And yet again, everything in moderation. So 𝗏𝗏 has dropped some knowledge up here in the chat. He says Polyverse is free, and he says it's a good stereo widener. Awesome. I have to check that out. By the way, you'll see up on your screen right now, I do have a date set for the 10,000 subscriber celebration. We will be giving away the prizes live here on the show that day. We've also got some special guests lined up. So if you want to come and check that out, hang out with me that day. That will be November 3rd. That's on a Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So As of right now, it's 2:30 p.m. here. We started this stream at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And Eastern Daylight Savings Time, I know, does not begin until November 7th for us. So this will be the actual time. I know there's a little bit of confusion about that earlier, but with that being said, be sure to set aside some time on your calendars if you can to be here November 3rd. If you're not here, don't worry. If you're not here and your name is drawn out of the hat and you become a winner, you'll still be notified via email that you have won something. So you don't have to be here to win anything, but I would like for you to be here just because it's going to be fun. We're going to be going over a lot of cool stuff together here. So also I have some really cool demos, plugin demos that's coming up that I want you guys to be made aware of as well. All right. So another question that I had got not too long ago was, and this was for an individual who just recently emailed me. So if you're here in the chat today, this is going to be helpful for you. And I may have already solved his problem, but maybe for other individuals who were wondering the same thing. So if I have, and it has to be in this screen, it has to be on your console view, but let's say I have an EQ that I've just adjusted for this electric left, and I want to perfectly copy that EQ adjustments that I've made to the electric right, or maybe it's an electric verse in this case. So if I was to go in here and just completely moidalize this, I'm going to moidalize it. Now it's a completely different EQ. So if I was wanting to take and copy this over, all I got to do is just come up here to this little window where the EQ curves are at, hold the control button, and click and drag it to the one next to it. And you can actually click and drag that to any track in here. And that will make a complete duplicate, a copy of that EQ curve on the track next to it. It's one of those things that's kind of hard to explain while you're doing it. So it's easier just to show it. So hopefully that helps the individual who reached out via email. And if he hasn't already figured out how to do it with my emails that I sent. But yeah. Another question that I had. So there was an individual that reached out the other day. I think this one was through Facebook. Don't quote me on that. But he was wondering about these vocals specifically on this song. By the way, thank you so much for the kind words. I wish I could remember his name right now. I get so many different emails and messages and stuff all day, every day, that sometimes it's hard for me to remember exactly where it came from. But his initial thoughts on this song was that it was a very well-balanced mix. He went and downloaded it from iTunes Music and gave me a nice little kickback that way. But he also said he loved the song and that he wanted to know about these lead vocals, about how I got them to sound the way that they sound. So we're going to solo these out, listen real quickly. And specifically, he did say the lead vocals. It wasn't the combination of the vocals and the choir together. So he wanted to know like the lead vocal in and of itself.
Talk is cheap, so give me change. That's all I'll need to make this call the burden of.
So literally the main thing that's happening here is the VX64 vocal strip. If you've watched my, I think it's 19 plugins that I use on every single mix, this is in that list. But it's got a little bit of a delay on here. And this is synced. I love this part. You can sync it with the BPM so you don't have to do any guesswork. It has a little bit of a de-esser going on, a compander section, which literally is just a compression and expansion at the same time. So it compresses the vocal, brings up the quiet parts, squashes the louder parts, and then whenever you're not singing anything at all, it immediately turns down the noise floor. And there's a little bit of tube saturation, as you can see here on the way in. If this was ticked off, then that means there's no tube saturation at all. And there's also some on the way out. So the way that this particular plugin flows, this is like the beginning and this is the end. So that's the signal flow of it. Starts here, goes through this section, and it actually has a doubler built in here too. which actually it does a really good job. And you can do it subtly or you can do it like way overboard. But then the amount of saturation is based off of these faders here. So it's 12% on the way in, 6% on the way out. The cool thing about this plugin, this has got to be like one of the coolest plugins ever for vocals, is even though these are set up this way, and it would seem like that the way, this is all set up, that the only way your signal flow can go is from here to the de-esser, doubler section to the companion, blah, 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 blah. No, you can actually change the routing. So right now the de-esser is first. I can set it to last by changing the routing here. And let's say, this delay section is here at the last. I can make it the first one. It's super cool. And you can route that any way that you want. You can get like a million different sounds from this because of that. Super cool. And then obviously Soothe 2. Ever since I've got this plugin, it's been on every single mix. I'm not going to lie. It just sounds that good. So that one is there. And basically it's taming some sibilance, and it's also taming some of the honkiness in the low end, which is kind of hard to get to sometimes. And the main thing, like I've said about a million times now, the main thing about buying more expensive plugins is not, bragging rights of saying that you have them. It's mainly just getting from point A to point B quicker. Okay, so like we live in a microwave sort of society right now where everybody wants results fast. They want to get this done quickly because time is so valuable, which is why I love the fact that you guys are here with me right now. I realize that time is that valuable, and the fact that you're here shows that you are seeing some value in this. But those more expensive plugins, it's not because it gives you a better sound. You could probably achieve the same sound with a lot of EQing and some other mixing ninja tricks, but this just does it very quickly and simply. And so that's the premise yet again behind the Rocket Fuel bundle, is to literally get you from point A to point B faster than you've ever got before. And then the CA2A is literally, it's set on limit, and it's just making everything constant, not overdoing it, but basically just raising the dynamics to a point where they're not squashed, but they're less dynamic in the sense that, if I'm singing, I'm getting into it and I move my head out of the microphone here, and then I come back here, and then I'm moving my head out of the microphone again, and it's going to pick all that up as if I never moved my head at all. And then there is reverb going on. So there's a short, and this is, yet again, this is how I do it. This is not the gospel here. This is how I do it. I have a short verb, a medium verb, and a long verb. And I'll show you what each one of those is doing. So here is what the short verb is doing to the lead vocal.
Talk is cheap, so give me change, that's all I need.
Okay, here's what the medium verb added in.
Talk is cheap, so give me change, that's all I need.
All right, and here's what the long verb added in.
Talk is cheap, so give me change, that's all I need to make this call the burden of.
So you put all that together and you have a vocal that sits on top nicely. It's got character. It's got a space of its own to dwell, and it cuts through the mix because of that very fact. It's got a place to dwell. And to hear that in context with the rest of the mix, even when all of this stuff is going on, take a listen.
Talk is cheap, give me change, that's all I need to make this call. Burden of what you say won't be enough to make me fall before the idol that this world has raised in ignorance. I'll boldly stand for what is right and keep on walking in the light. When I have drawn my final breath, my conscience clean before my death, I'll raise my voice in victory.
Nice. So hopefully that answers some of those questions. Are there any other questions by way of the chat when it comes to anything? It doesn't have to be Cakewalk related, anything music related. I'd be happy to answer any questions I can. And yet again, if it's something that I can't answer, I'll point you into the direction of someone who can help you answer, or I'll research and get you the right answer. That's the one thing I don't ever want to do, is give the wrong answer. So if I feel like I'm grasping at straws and I can't come up with a good answer, then I'm not going to just give you an answer for the sake of saying I had one. I'll definitely research it and find the right one. So here's the cool part, Jürgen. Jürgen asked about the reverbs that I was using. It's actually the stock Sonatus reverbs. Normally I use the Eventide 2000 reverbs. But to me, one of the reasons I wanted to do this was for the sake of saying that I used stock plugins for the reverb. And the other thing that I wanted to do this for was for the sake of saying, I'm going to use something different because I'm so used to using the same things over and over and over. I thought, you know what? I'm going to step outside of my comfort zone, go back to some stock plugins and use them. So yeah, literally it's the Sonatus stock reverb that's found within Cakewalk. That's what it sounds by itself. Let's take a listen to how this one sounds here. Okay, and then our long reverb. That's kind of a cool sounding mix just of the reverbs there itself. Interesting. So as you can see here, apart from Soothe 2, the Drummer S73, the 1, and yeah, the classic Clipper, everything else is stock. So yes, to answer your question, can you get the same thing with stock plugins? Absolutely. Awesome. So 𝗏𝗃, you've just come up with a really good question here. Let me start pulling these up on the screen because I think it make it easier for people to see these together. Thank you, Jürgen, by the way, for helping out our Central Europeans. He's relaying in the chat here that if it's 2 p.m. here for the live stream celebration, it's going to be 7 p.m. for Europeans, 6 p.m. for UKanians, because Europe is already back to standard time. Thank you so much. Okay, so where was it? Okay, so Jürgen is asking what type of reverbs do you use for short, medium, and long? I just showed you that. And then he says, okay, so here's 𝗏𝗃's question, and I want to get to this. Oh, I don't have it up on the screen like I thought it did. Sorry. Let me bring that up now. There it is. So 𝗏𝗃 says, I hear people say, don't have your reverbs and delays getting in the way of other things, but don't really know how to do that. So let me give you sort of a real quick answer for this, okay? And what I mean by a real quick answer, I should say a real quick solution to this. By the way, we got 19 people watching and 19 likes. I love to see that. Thank you guys. Okay, so check it out. We have 9 days left for the giveaway, by the way. So here is the Home Studio Simplified website. I'm going to go ahead and take these off the screen for now. And literally, I have what's called the reverb and delay calculator here. And all you have to do is simply go to the screen and type in whatever your beats per minute is. So let's say it's 120 beats per minute your song is. You come down here and hit calculate. Now it tells you at 121 beats per minute, a quarter note will have a duration of 500 milliseconds. Okay, great. Now what does all that mean? How's that going to help you? Well, I'm glad you asked. Because reverbs and delays are time-based effects. So with a time-based effect, what's going to happen is you have your initial vocal line that sings, and they say, ah, but the reverb goes, ah, and there's a time delay to that where it drops off at a predetermined time based off of how large the room is and what your milliseconds of decay are. Okay. So that's a time-based plugin then, just like delays are time-based plugins. You can have your quarter note delays, your 1/8 delays, your dotted eighth delays, and each one of those are going to perform differently. So your dotted eighth, it might be like a, and your quarter note will be like a, you know, it's going to be differently. So if that dotted eighth is coming in at the same time as the next line of the song, it's going to be now coming in on top of a different line. So that's going to sound weird. So the way that you bypass that is you get a delay that stops or fades out or just completely, you know, is null by the time that next line starts. By using this reverb and delay calculator on my website, what you can do is essentially create a reverb that will be in time with your song. So to sort of demonstrate this, let's go back to this lead vocal. Solo this out. Okay. Now take a listen.
Talk is cheap, so give me.
So give me. It starts to turn down. By the time the next line comes up, it's already went down enough to where it's no longer combating. The best part, the best way to see this is especially during the verses in phrases. So check this out.
The darkness of this present hour is ever looming.
So this portion in between one line and the next, you'll notice that it gives it just enough time for that reverb to sort of fade out and that delay to sort of fade out before that next line begins. I'm going to turn this up a little bit so you can actually hear this.
Present hour is ever looming. The pressure to perform is all-consuming. We bare our souls just to get alike and filter.
Okay. So, with that being said, I think it was at -5. Maybe it was +5. I don't remember. It don't matter now. It's done released. Ha ha. Take that, world. But with that being said, yes, in order to get your reverbs and your delays to not be in the way of other things, you just simply need to make them fade out or go away, duck under. There's different ways you can do this to make them get out of the way of things that are playing. So, for instance, if I didn't have the reverb set up correctly, and I had incredibly long tails on all of these, at the end of the day, everything would sound so washed out because it would all be playing on top of each other. And it would get to a point where it was just like overkill. So you have to, yet again, it's moderation, and it's also just a little bit of math. So, and instead of having to sit around and do all that math, you can just simply take that reverb and delay calculator and that will be your best friend. I hope that made sense. Okay. Kamikaze Shots says, could you achieve the same sonic quality as this with strictly the stock plugins? Yes. As I stated already before, the paid for plugins, the other plugins that I'm using are mainly just to get to a point quicker, or because they're doing something sonically that I don't have to use 2 or 3 plugins to do to get them to do it. A lot of these are utility plugins. Like say, for instance, the one plugin here has got an EQ section, a mastering section, a sort of, well, it's got a width section. It's also got a transient shaper section, and it even has sort of like a grit section, if you want to call it that. So yeah. X-Dot says, do you use Reverb at all? You know, I do from time to time, just to kind of throw things up, make it a little differently. However, I don't use it a lot because it's very CPU intensive. intensive. I'm just making up words now. Very CPU intensive. So yeah, I do, but not always. Is it a room plate? Whatever. Yes. So the way that I do this is on my short verb, as you can see here, I have that set to sort of like a plate setting. My medium verb is set to a room setting. My long verb is set to like a hall setting, is the best way to describe it. And yet again, it's different with every mix because I've got these time delays set in such a way to where they make sense with the mix. So because one mix might be at 84 BPMs, another one might be 160, those are going to change. Those rooms and those plates as well as the halls are going to change based off of that to make sure that those aren't all setting on top of each other. So along with the reverb calculation, let me bring this up. So we just did 120 BPMs, right? So at 120 BPMs, it was 500 milliseconds was our ideal for a quarter note, okay? So for a short room, you want less than a quarter note. You don't want a quarter note. So what I do is I take this and I divide it by 2. So 200, you could say 0.250 milliseconds would be my ideal plate setting. Okay, so now if I go times 2, that brings me back to where we were, 0.500 or 500 milliseconds, 1 being a second, 0.500 being half of a second. Okay, now if I do that times 2 again, 1 second is going to be my hall. 500 milliseconds is going to be my room. So it's super simple. Take and divide it by 2. That number there, when you first start out. So we start out at 500. We're going to divide that by 2. 250 is going to be my plate. The 500 is going to be my room. And the 1 is going to be my hall. I've been doing it like that now for quite some time and never had an issue with my reverbs where it sounds like it's stepping on anything or washing out stuff, unless I just send too much of the signal into it, which brings up another great question. So Jürgen says, if you want to use much reverb, you can duck it by using sidechain compression. Absolutely. That's another way to do it. What level of proficiency do you recommend to join the Rocket Fuel bundle? That's a great question. So if you're already making music and you kind of have your way around, the equipment that you're using, I would say you're an excellent fit, because this is literally like anyone who's a complete beginner, an amateur, I would say, well, not complete beginner, but maybe like an amateur to an expert pro level, they can all benefit from this. However, there was an individual who reached out and said, I'm still having a hard time figuring out how to even record into my computer. And is this going to be a fit for me? And rather than just say, yeah, I'll take your money, I said, no, I don't think it's going to be a fit for you as of right now. Keep watching the channel, keep growing, and maybe, and he even suggested, well, maybe I'll just reach out to you for some private sessions so that you can get me up to speed, and then I can join later, because these are going to be happening annually. So, and it might even be bi-monthly. I don't know. We're trying to figure out how this is all going to work as of yet, because it's a lot of time investment on my part and on your part, but it just works. And I love the fact that everyone who had joined the first session, everyone had nothing but good to say about it. It was amazing. We have actually Jürgen, who's here in the chat now, had never even created a song. He had the skills. He knew how to record into his DAW, so he had that sort of level of proficiency, but he'd never actually put a song together until he went through the Rocket Fuel bundle. By the third session, he had his own song that he had produced and created. It was awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you, David. I appreciate it. I wish I had my Rodecaster Pro is still sent off to Rode right now to getting repaired, so I don't have my buttons. I'm missing my buttons. I normally will have, if you're someone who's new on the stream, or this is your first time on the stream, normally I'll be able to push this button. There's like a crowd cheer that goes on. So I apologize for no crowd cheers here lately, but thank you guys so much for the new individuals that are hopping on. D-Boy, the original, says, is your reverb and delay aux sends, are they bus sends? They are bus sends. That's a good question, actually. So a lot of people have asked me, well, what's the difference between an aux and a bus? So essentially, your aux will dwell on your track pane here underneath your tracks or somewhere in your track view, which is what we're looking at right now. Whereas a bus will show up on your console view. So it will look like these over here. This is your bus section. These are your track panes for the console view. These are the bus panes for the console view. And if you use an aux, it's going to show up here on this screen. So if you want to streamline everything and not have to keep jumping back and forth between screens, you can use aux tracks. But there's really not a greater advantage or disadvantage between using one or the other. Only with the caveat, I would say, of an aux track, you can actually sort of print it. You can actually print that to, within that project, you can print it to an audio file. Whereas if you want to do that with a bus channel, you would actually have to export the bus channels and then re-import them. Hope that makes sense. So yes, these are all being sent to buses. So as you can see, there's a send here from this lead vocal to the short verb. It's being sent right here to this. So if I was to solo this out, you will see
tower is ever looming.
This is all that's going to those
Pressure
buses.
to perform is
Actually, that's
all consuming.
not enough,
We bear
not
our souls
a lot
just
at all.
to get alike and feel.
Sorry, I need to quit. I need to get in the habit of not talking while the music's playing, because I need to realize you guys can't really hear me very well. So, but as you can see, it's really not like negative 32 dBs is all that's being pushed into those reverbs, but they are still making that big of a difference. Yet again, it's subtlety. If I've said it 100 times, I'll say it 100 more. So if I was to remove those sends, this is what you have.
Tower is ever looming. The pressure to perform
Put 'em back
is all consuming. We bear our souls just to get alike and filter.
Very good. So yeah, those are actual bus sends. Good question. SluffDX says, SluffDX, yes. Have you worked with tempo maps, and have you adjusted delay times accordingly within the same song? Typically speaking, no. And the reason for that is because typically speaking, most of the songs that I work with, it's not like a singer-songwriter that doesn't have drums. So the tempo is pretty much spot on because most individuals know to play to a click track or with a set of, VSTI drums or something like that, so that their timing is pretty good. So if there's a little bit of a timing smear from one to the, one end of the spectrum to another, whether it's sooner or later, it doesn't make that big of a difference. It's whenever it's over the course of the entire mix and you start getting all these combating things lying on top of each other, that's whenever it gets really bad. So, with that being said, there are instances where I have worked with tempo maps for singer-songwriters who had no drums whatsoever, no shaker parts, nothing to sort of keep them in time. But based off of what Cakewalk was telling me, it was telling me that, basically that the tempo was all over the place. So with instances like that, I try not to use delay across the entire vocal or across the whole guitar. And what I mean by that is I'll use it stylistically for, at the end of the vocal, it might have a, like in this instance, the darkness of this present hour. I might do like a dotted eighth delay at the end of a vocal and then kind of drop it back down and just let it be very subtle underneath the vocal, or just use reverb to create a space. So good question though. X Dot says, what do you use for streams to get the chat on the screen? That's not Cakewalk related, but it's fine because I said ask me anything. I'd be happy to hook you up with that. Actually, it's the green string guy. Oh, nice. Gotcha. So X Dot, I'll tell you what, I am going to, I'll send you a private message if that'd be all right, on what? What are you on? Oh, you're on Instagram, right? I think you are. Because it would be kind of, not that I don't want to share it with everybody here, but I would like to sort of give you a more in-depth answer and links and everything like that. So let me make sure that you're on Instagram. X. There you are. I see you. I see you, my friend. All right. So yeah, I'll send that over here just momentarily about what I'm using to get that chat on the screen. And actually, if you're available here in a little bit, maybe I'll just hit you up on Skype real quick. That'd be cool. Let me know if you'd be available. I'll just hit you up on Skype real quick after the stream is over. Okay, so here's a good question. What's the easiest way to swap a stereo wave file on a track to a dual mono tracks? That's a good question. So the way that I would do that is here within Cakewalk. So you can bring this in here, and as you can see, it's now a stereo file. Within Cakewalk, there's a couple ways that you could do this. You could actually, so I'll go to insert an audio track. Let me get a stereo track for you here. Yes, the song is out already. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Jurgen's already beaten me to it. Let me... I bet these pads are probably stereo pads. Yeah, here we go. Okay, so this is a stereo track. There's a couple of different ways to do this. Within Cakewalk, you can do this. You can go insert a send. And yet again, here's the beauty of the aux track. So I can send this now to a new aux track. Okay. And insert a send. Set it to a new aux track yet again. And I'll call this one left. I'll call this one right. Okay. And as you'll see, it just changed here on the screen as well. And now what I can do is I can go in here and click record on left, record on right. Okay. Send this one right, send this one left. And now whenever I actually go to record, I guess I need to have that ready before I do that. Okay. Now I have two tracks that have been split down to left and right. I can just go in here and convert them to mono. So there's the stereo track split out to left and right sides that way. You want to know an even easier way to do this though? I mean, I'm talking like dead simple, like crazy easy. Okay, this is going to sound counterintuitive, right? Because I'm the Cakewalk guy. Counterintuitive Cakewalk guy coming up. Oh, look at this. Audacity. Yeah. Yeah. That's right. If I was to fly this into Audacity, which I don't know if I can, like this. Oh, that's why actually going to let me. So if I was to fly this into Audacity, I can actually go into here. And there is an option. Where's it at? Split stereo track. Split stereo to mono. Now I've got left and right sides. That quick. Cakewalk needs to implement this. Are you listening, Cakewalk? I will be hitting you up on the phone later. Actually, I'm getting ready to talk to Brian Bonds about a really cool endeavor that we're going to try to do together. BandLab and IK Multimedia. I can't say too much yet, but just be aware, as a BandLab partner, a real one, not one that got some fake email and signed up and wasted all my money, as a real BandLab partner who's actually getting paid for some of these videos, a very small amount of them. And I would also make mention of the fact here publicly that BandLab is not, as of right now, unfortunately, is not holding up to their end of the bargain past the monetization, the payment point. So we had agreed to do 2 videos. They was going to pay me for the 2 videos, and then they were supposed to support me on their platforms, on their blog, on their channels, you name it. They were going to share my videos. They've paid me, but they've never shared one of my videos yet. Wah, 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 wah. Shame on you guys. So with that, I went ahead and did some cross promoting of my own and got in touch with IK because we've got a really good relationship, and said, hey, here's an idea I've got. Can't wait till I can share it with you guys because I think it's going to be pretty stinking awesome. So basically forced BandLab's hand in a nice way. Just give them a gentle nudge to say, hey, let's keep working together. Let's keep doing stuff. Don't drop the ball. But yeah. So there's the easiest way to split a stereo file to dual mono tracks, is actually using Audacity, believe it or not. And look at that, 𝗪𝗀𝗏 already, he's all over it. and it does not re-render the signal. That's great. Great to notice. Yes, actually 𝗪𝗀𝗏 has already posted here in the chat a link where you can go in and get a copy of the song that we're covering today as well. And I'm going to repost it in the chat just in case you didn't see it. Awesome. Okay, so Chillwalker's channel says, there is a tool editor in which you can easily implement any audio editor into the tools menu. Still works. Interesting. Interesting. I would like to know more about that. So with that being said, I think there's also another way to do this. And I want to say it's here. No, that's not it. See, it seems like it should be right there, but it's not. So yeah, the quickest way you're going to find to do that is the ways that I just showed you. Nice. Okay. What is up? Mob the Gamer's back. Chillwalker, if you find that link, let me know. It will not let you post here in the chat, however, because I have that sort of monitored so that people don't spam the chat unless you're a moderator. So if you find that link, hit me up and let me know on social media or send me an email of some kind. And I'll check the link out first, and then I'd be happy to post that here. Or you know what? Because I trust you, I'll just make you a moderator for now. And then you can post that link for everyone to benefit from. That'd be easier. I don't know why I was trying to make it all. Okay. Well, we've already covered quite a bit of stuff. We went now for roughly an hour and 10 minutes, just covering various elements of questions. Let's go ahead and see what else we can accomplish here. Is there any more questions before we get into? Okay, yeah, actually we do have another question. Cool. Let's go back here. It looks like... Oh, thank you so much, Mob. I appreciate that, buddy. Nice. Super chat. Okay, so Underland Fortress says, what's up? I appreciate your knowledge. I was wondering if Cakewalk has an export to directly BandLab option. If not, they should. Yes. Yes, they do, actually. So let me show you real quickly here on the screen. Mob the Gamer. Super chatter. Nice. I'm going to have to go and check that out. Tools editor. I see. Okay. Nice. Okay, this is getting me going down a rabbit hole here. Okay. Why have I not known about this? Why did I not know? This is cool. Okay, definitely going to check that out. Thanks a lot, Chill Walker. Appreciate that, buddy. I am going to bookmark this. Keep this handy so that after the stream I can check this out. Good deal. Okay, so we got 32 concurrent viewers and 23 likes. Come on, guys. Let's like this. As these kids say nowadays, smash that like button. I don't know why they always want to smash stuff. We never did that whenever I was growing up. Whatever. Okay. Where was I at? I got sidetracked by this cool little gimmick here. I say gimmick. It's not a gimmick. Where was I at? Oh yeah, the export to BandLab option. Hello. Okay. So if you go up here to File, you can publish to BandLab directly from within Cakewalk here. And you can browse your BandLab projects from here as well. So that's actually part of the thing that I'm going to be showcasing with the 𝗏𝗏 multimedia stuff. So looking forward to that. Great questions, man. You guys are all over it today. Knocking some awesome questions out of the park. Good deal. Muhammad says, hi, is there any way to make or remove silence work in Cakewalk by BandLab? Remove silence. Yes. So this here would be considered a silent area, right? So, or let's say this would probably be a better example. This here is considered to be a silent area. Okay. So I can click and drag and delete it. Silence is gone. Or I can go up here to process, remove silence. See that up here? And then it will give me different options here as far as what to do. And that's only going to be on the section that I highlight as well. So it's not going to be removing silences from all over the place. Okay. And with that being said, the other option is to just simply hit delete. Okay. Hey, don't you worry about it, Mob. Any little bit helps. You just helped to be a sponsor in a sense to the giveaways. So yeah, don't worry about it, man. Not to mention, I just appreciate you showing up all the time. You're an awesome individual. I love you. All right. You may dig a little deeper for the 64-bit version, but it's working in my Cakewalk. Good deal. Okay, so 𝗏𝗏𝗃𝗃 Shot says, what is your opinion on mastering tools like 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗄𝗏's Ozone Essentials? They definitely have, there's a lot of good to that. There's a lot of, yet again, if I've said it once, I'll say it 100 times. It's all about how much of a thing that you do. So if you do like a crazy amount of, stereo widening, you do a crazy amount of, basically just don't overuse any plugin ever. If you overuse them, that's when you get into a situation where now, you're starting out sounding really good, and then you end up sounding worse than whenever you started. So the best thing that you can do is, with any plugin, like I've already mentioned, just use moderation. And the other thing about that is, and I've said this time and time again too, if it sounds good, then it's good. And Warren Hewart, he says that phrase all the time. So it's one of those things where use your ears, and if it sounds good to your ears, don't listen to what someone on the internet is saying about it. Don't listen to even what I'm saying about it. If I said, oh yeah, it sounds trash if you do this, but it sounds good on your end, maybe something you're doing is working. So don't worry about it. Gordon Grinnell, what is up, buddy? Thank you so much, Joe Walker. Appreciate it, buddy. Is direct to BandLab only in the latest update? I believe so, yes. It was actually introduced in the 2021.09.01, I believe, update. So, 𝗏𝗏𝗃𝗃 Shot says, what about BandLab's mastering tool? So I've actually done an entire video on that. It was kind of crazy. It was very close to the mastering that I had performed on a song. I was actually pretty impressed. There was only really one version though that I liked out of the 4, I think it is, you can pick from. So I only used that version. I didn't actually go through the other, like there's a fire version, a retro version, or something like that. There was only one version. I think it was called Universal. So yeah. Yes, the song is entitled Viral. Yeah, thanks for hitting me up about the song, man. I appreciate that. Ozone Essentials is free until the 25th. That's cool. So everyone in the chat right now, you might want to run and grab that. Yet again, I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying use it sparingly. So now as far as the video, for, let's see here. I think I've just got it titled BandLab versus, oh yeah. Yeah, it's BandLab versus, BandLab mastering versus mastering engineer. So like I said, it's pretty interesting. I'll post a link to that in the chat now so you can go and check that out. You can either do it now or later. I would prefer you do it later, but if you want to do it now, that's fine. There we go. Okay, so the next a nice clean gooey skin. Who made it? Actually, I made it. This is the HSS, not the Sheen theme. I think it's just called the HSS theme. And if you want access to this, you can either join the membership here for like $1.99 a month or more. I think it's $1.99 or something like that. Anyway, you get access to this theme as well as some cool multi-tracks like the Michael Jackson multi-tracks we worked on. Also, if you hop on to Patreon, there's actually more themes available there, and more like a ton of multi-tracks available there if you sign up for a Patreon membership. And I always include more on the Patreon page, just in case you're wondering, because Patreon actually pays out more. They take like 10 to 13% off the top, whereas YouTube takes like 30% off the top. It's crazy. But I do realize that it's a lot easier to just go down and hit a join button and you're already there. Whereas going up, setting up another blah, 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 blah. It's crazy. X says, I'll be available. Just set up my Skype on this computer. Just realized it wasn't set up on here. That's cool. Yeah, I'm going to be wrapping up the stream here in about another 9 minutes. So I'll be hitting you up here in just a minute, brother. Oh, you're welcome, buddy. I appreciate it. All right. So thus far, it has been an awesome stream. Greatly appreciate everybody who's jumped on. And thanks for the tips that I got back as well. I love the fact that now I know about this this tool editor thing. I'm gonna have to go and mess with this. I'm starting to look at it now again. I gotta get away. I gotta get away. It's like a shiny object that's distracting me. In today's video, we're gonna okay. All right, but before we call this stream over, ladies and gentlemen, there's something we have to do. Something we do every single stream, for the most part, unless I forget about it, or the wheel doesn't work. But you know what time it is. It's time to spin the wheel of awesomeness. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Robert McClellan has officially walked away from the computer and given the microphone to 𝗬𝐭𝐿 𝐿𝐴. And for Mob the Gamer, that's right, I was a real guy at one point in time. Haha! Yes, we're going to spin the wheel and see whatever the wheel lands on. That's going to dictate whatever we do. Tell us, wheel, what will we do? Looks like we have a favorite, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. Casey has officially left the building and someone else has entered. I'm not sure what's going on. I don't know what just happened. That sounded like a mix between like the guy that was on The Simpsons. Anyway. Wow. Okay, so by way of the chat today, what has been your absolute favorite over all of the years that you've been watching the channel? Let's just put it this way. Who has been your absolute favorite guest on the show? We've had a ton of guests on here. Who's been your favorite guest thus far? I think it'd be kind of cool to know. Gordon Grinnell says creepy. Oh man. Let me just go back and Quagmire, that's who it was. Giggity giggity. Hey, how's it going here? Giggity giggity. All right, I'm going off the deep end here. Let me just go back and see, because we've had a ton of awesome people on here. I'm curious myself, just who all have we had? So I know we had, let's see here. We've had Mob the Gamer. That was an awesome interview. Rich Steve Beck, he was on here from Produce, Mix, Fix, and Conquer. We had Addy. We had Audio Surgeon. Addy from Hit the Road Music. That was cool. Audio Surgeon, he was on here. Adamental. That was cool. Beat Making with Cakewalk in Cakewalk with Bongonzo. That was definitely an awesome interview. Of course, we had the Honorable X.E.L.O. We had Scott Elliott on here. We had Jesse Josephson from Sync My Music on here. We had Matt Boudreau on here. We had Warren Hewitt, of course, on here. Who else have we had? We had Graham Cochran. We've had Joe Gilder. We've had David Glenn. We've had 𝗏𝗏𝗄𝐿𝐿. No, 𝗏𝗏𝗄𝐿𝐿 not been on here yet that I know of. We need to get 𝗏𝗏𝗄𝐿𝐿 on here. Definitely. I think I might have done like a dry run. Oh, it was on his. I was on his. Yeah, we need to get him on here. We need to do an interview with 𝗏𝗏𝗄𝐿𝐿. That'd be awesome. And then who else have we had? Oh, the Real Traps guy. What was his name? Ethan Weiner. We had Ethan Weiner. That was cool. Mastering engineer 𝗵𝗶𝗿𝗶𝗶. He was on here. I know I just butchered his last name, and if he was on here, he'd be cursing me. Not really. He's a super nice guy. Man, who else have we had on here? Let's see. I'm going to try to go back through here and find Jesse Josephson. Yeah, we brought him up. We've actually had Warren Hewart on here twice. I could have him on here a million times. That'd be fine by me. Yeah, Adamantal, Hip Hop. Joe Gilder, Wampler. Oh yeah, Brian Wampler was on here. How can I forget Brian Wampler? That was a really fun interview. The creator of 𝗵𝗆𝗄𝗄. Super cool. Ethan Weiner. That's his name. 𝗵𝗆𝗄𝗄. John Heyman was on here. As well as, I believe, Justin Clark. Don Cherry. Yes. We've had a ton of cool people on here. Now, some of these are only available on the podcast because either the video quality wasn't the best or I wasn't doing video and audio at the time. So you'll find that some of these are only available on the podcast. So if you don't know about the fact that we have a podcast available as well, you want to go and check that out. We have a podcast that's up to episode number 65 now, I believe. Yes. The interview with David Glenn was episode 65. Super cool. And now this is stuff that you can take with you in your ears. You don't have to have a screen to visually see it. So, yeah. Okay, who else did we have on the channel? Warren was a great guest. I was also very impressed by Addy. You had him in for the mixing contest. That's what it was, yeah. 𝗪𝗀𝗻 was in the jury, so to speak. And Chill Walker in the future. Absolutely, hit me up, man. We'll get this thing started. I'm not opposed to having anyone here on the show, as long as they can provide some value back to the community. And you've already provided some value here in the chat today, so I definitely believe, yeah, you'd be a good fit. I'd like to get some individuals on here that maybe didn't know that they could be on here, for crying out loud. Let's see here. Just going back through the chat real quick to make sure I didn't miss anybody. Okay, good deal. So yeah, with that being said, we are going to go ahead and conclude today's stream. I appreciate everybody, and I do mean that, everybody that has been here today. I appreciate all of your support, whether it's monetary, whether it's, I just appreciate you all. You all rock. Oh my goodness, you updated to Windows 11? I'm so scared. Let me know how that works out for you here in the near future. It always seems smooth at first. Awesome. And I just got some client work. Good deal. Just got some tracks emailed to me for some mixing. Good deal. Which, by the way, if you guys would like to work with me, if you would like for me to work on your tracks for mixing and mastering or even production elements, let me know. If there's something that I can't do, I can also help you by providing you with someone who can. I have an entire list of what I've called the HSS session players. These are individuals who can play drums, bass, guitars, whatever you might need. I can hook you up with the right people to help out. If you would like to get on that list, maybe you play an instrument and you would like to be available to be reached out for to know, I can also send that in the chat right now. And basically by building this list, it's helping me to acquire names and, different instrument styles and stuff for individuals that as I come across, certain projects, someone may say, I want a flute in this project. And I would be like, oh, I don't play flute, but guess what? I know someone here on my sessions players list that actually does. And so it helps me to sort of give back to the community as well. Let me find that here. And I'll post that in the chat as well if you guys are interested. Well, if I can ever find it. Where's it at? I think it's in this one. That's why. Okay, that's not it. Okay, here we go. No, that's the request form. Finally. Boy, that took, that's when you know you need to really clean out your hard drives. When you're getting to that problem. Okay, so by way of the chat right now, if you would like to become an HSS session player, here is a link to the Google Doc where you can go and sign up. Mike Krepp says, I have a terrible problem with VSTs. What appears to be the problem, man? Maybe we can help you out. I kind of like that just black background. That looks kind of schmooth. Okay, so yeah, I've already said like 15 times now I'm getting ready to end the stream and I'm still just sitting here looking at comments. So with that being said, if you have any questions that I was not able to answer on this particular stream and you would like to, like for me to cover more in depth on something or whatever, feel free to send me an email at homestudiosimplified@gmail.com. Also, you can get a hold of me on the Facebook page. There's a ton of different ways you can get a hold of me. But with that being said, we're going to go ahead and end today's live stream, but definitely not end the love that we're sharing with one another. So until next time, guys, remember you can dream alone. You can even create alone, but together we can achieve so much more. What if there was a way to get so hyper-focused on your music production that you could churn out songs, yes, more than one, every single month? Do you struggle to find time producing your music with all the demands of life? Or maybe you feel like it's lacking the quality that's needed to actually release it for the world to hear? If you answered yes to any of these questions, that's why I have created the Rocket Fuel Bundle. This bundle is a tried and proven method to get more done when you sit down to do what you love. In this bundle, you're going to learn everything that you need to know about music production, make your own music, and even begin to make money from that music. So you may be asking yourself, well, what is the Rocket Fuel Bundle? Well, first off, I need to let you know that I'm not selling just another course. This is literally an opportunity for you to get results and fast, hence the phrase rocket fuel being in the title. Secondarily, this is not a one-time use trick. It's not a plugin that fixes things for you in the mix. It's not some one-off gimmick that only works for some and not for others. In fact, the entire structure of this bundle is specifically designed to give you practical applications that you can use time and time again to get amazing results over and over and over. Now, the best part is you won't be doing any of this alone. Along with the courses that you get to watch at your own leisure, you also get 5 face-to-face group Skype calls with me and a committed group of other musicians just like you. These 2-hour small group conference calls will be a great place where I can actually break down every aspect of music production, as well as give you some crazy speed hacks to get you churning out songs, yes, more than one, every single month. Alright, now let's talk about what all is included in the bundle. First up, you get my Compression Simplified course. This course will teach you how to use advanced compression techniques to shape audio to fit into a mix. Secondarily, you're going to get the Ultimate Cakewalk by BandLab tutorial course. This is featured on the Pro Mix Academy, and this course will get you up and running with Cakewalk fast. Now, even if you don't use Cakewalk, you can still mix along with the multi-tracks that are provided and add another song to your portfolio. Lastly, you're also going to get my Creating a Song Step-by-Step 2.0 course. This will allow you to follow along with me and take an idea that is in your head and then make it into a full-blown production that's ready to release for all the world to hear. But wait, there's more. Yes, I had to do it. You also get an EQ cheat sheet, a Cakewalk Pro Start template, my 15-step mixing system, which will help you to finish a mix faster, as well as PDF guides for every single module that's on the Cakewalk course. You'll also get 5 video conference calls and a song collaboration opportunity. Now, if this sounds like something that you'd love to be a part of, sign up now. The doors will be open for the month of October only, or until we reach 10 members within that community. Therefore, the doors could close sooner based off of how many of you sign up. All right, guys, I'm looking forward to seeing you in the Rocket Fuel Bundle community. Please, you owe it to yourself to jump on board and take your music production to the next level. Start churning out more songs than you ever have. Remember, we can dream alone, we can create alone, but together, we can achieve so much more.